Good morning, good morning. Welcome back. Apologies again for the Australian sun. It's very, very harsh, and then when it goes behind clouds, it's like we're in Iceland or something. It's very overcast, so it keeps going in and out. Okay, today let's get right into the topic. I was really interested in where you guys are at as a talking point. And what I mean by that is that last night I put up a poll just generally to get some sort of consensus vote of where people might be sitting. And I know it's just a small sample size of people who are already on my channel, so it's not objective, you know, the world's much larger. But I just wanted to see, with the guys that enjoy conversations the way I'm having them, that are simpatico with the way I'm speaking and the way we're trying to pull things apart and understand dating and life and making choices and things like that. I wanted to see where people sat. And I did a poll where I asked, which of the following best describes your current situation? And interestingly, happy, single, and not even trying was overwhelmingly the majority of you guys, or at least my subs. And looking across the board, it doesn't surprise me. This seems like the character of my subs and the guys I talk to who are relatively sensible about these topics of dating and life, whether you do, whether you don't. And I was definitely in this camp, single and not trying. And I think as you get older, it is the majority of guys that keep having difficulty with dating and relationships. I think this is very unsurprising that the top one is single, happy, not even trying. It's a relief not to keep butting my head against a brick wall where nothing I do works, and no matter how I follow the rules of what women want, dating, what society wants of me, I can do everything correctly, but it just doesn't work out. And afterwards, the only advice I get is try again. You're doing it wrong. We can't tell you why, but try again. And it's just kind of magical luck or something that you might try for the 56th time and you get the jackpot. And I never intuitively felt like it should be that hard. There needed to be some sort of skill about it. There needed to be more skill than just being at the right place at the right time and having luck bestowed on you. It's kind of like, I didn't like the idea of relationships being, I'm in the queue at some grocery line, and if I happen to be the 56th person that's served, then you hear a bell go off, go ding, 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 you get the relationship, you won. It's like, oh, great. And all the other people behind me go, oh, crap. I guess I'll have to wait for my turn to magically get the win. Yet when I spoke to people who seemed more self-assured, they know how they went about things, they spoke up, they weren't embarrassed, they had no fear in regards to the opposite sex. I just saw the confidence with which they held themselves. There was a parallel with that and how happy they were in their lives, with or without somebody. But especially with, because I was always wanting a long-term permanent companion, and I never sort of lied about that. Like, I was always wanting that or open to it. But I kind of, I shared the frustrations with guys. Just trying to find some basic human being to connect with was really difficult. So this is not surprising at all. The second most common one is single, but looking or open. And yeah, I think before, like I said, you get older. And I think the majority of guys, as they get older, more sensible, are tired of being a doormat, and they either want a fair, cooperative person, a decent, nice person that's not a manipulator and is not a 5-year-old. you want to be a grown-up and you're looking for a fair grown-up as well. I think most guys, I think it's more than 43%. Again, this is our poll, don't forget. I think generally in the world, most guys, this would be above 50% of guys that get older, mature, they're tired of it. Even if they're apprehensive or a bit afraid of women, I think they'll still belong in the top one, because even if they're worried about women and they can't do it correctly, they'll think like, I just can't do this anymore. I'm tired of being afraid. I'm a 40, 50-year-old man. I just want to be free and happy. And I know I can't be free and happy, even if it's my own personality, that I'm always nervous around women. I just don't want to feel that way. I want to feel calm and content the way I do away from women. I just can't work it out. Even if a guy is reflective enough to know that it's me, I just can't be that calm guy who's relaxed around women, who says who he is and reveals who. I'm just so nervous, and I'm worried about what they'll say and how they'll judge me. And, you know, if my hobbies are weird or quirky, whether they'll laugh at me or make fun of me, I just can't help it. I'm just that way. And so I just want to be happy, and I'll be single. I'd rather choose happiness and single rather than trying and never being able to increase my self-esteem around women, never being able to minimize my fear around women. So I completely am sympathetic to guys like that. And I'd say it's the majority of guys as they get older, more sensible, and start to see that there's not much time left. I'm done being the 5-year-old. I'm going to be an adult. And then the more you're an adult around yourself, for yourself, and you respect yourself in that way, you can't be around people that don't reciprocate and treat you fairly because you want to. You want fairness and adult behavior or nothing, because I'll have it on my own. And if I can't have it with you, then I'm certainly just going to have it on my own. Sorry. As I said before, I've never wanted children. So for me, it was easier not to tolerate childish behavior around women because I don't want children. So I don't like that behavior in children. So when an adult female that I'm going out with exhibits juvenile and childish behavior, it's a real turnoff for me. I don't go, oh, it's okay, sweetheart, as though I'm talking to my daughter. It's like, no, this is annoying. I talk it out, and I tend to get it out in conversation, try not to be rude, but really reveal, is she a adult toddler? And if so, I can't be with this person because I already dislike her. I don't like her behavior. I don't like how she thinks, responds, and what she believes and what she expects from me. Let's see. Let me just say hello. Hi, Rocket, Adam, Super C, Melee, Big Ol, David, how are you? Hi to the regulars, Cynical Optimist, Neanderthal, Terry Dean, Mr. Anderson. Mr. Anderson, thank you for the super chat. I know there's a lot of people scared of super chats now because they think I'm stealing your money or something. If you feel like saying thank you with a donation, it's there. You don't have to. But during the stream especially, there's so many comments, it's hard for me to keep talking and giving you some sort of value through this conversation while I'm talking in real time, instead of going down the list and trying to see what questions are there and while everyone's waiting for me to read and search. So if you would like to ask me a question during the stream, please add, this is an example, just add 3 smiley faces before your question or comment to me during the stream. Alternatively, if you add a super chat like Mr. Anderson did, and the super chats are just below this stream, if you're watching this live, click on that and click whatever tier you feel like donating, and that gets highlighted during my stream like this, and it sticks out like dog's balls. So I'll see it for sure. Mr. Anderson says, dealing with a woman can be like dealing with the IRS. Your taxes are wrong. Fine. What do I owe? We can't say, try again. That's not communication. Yeah. It's very political. There's gaslighting. You don't get a correct answer. How many times have we heard in an interview, the reporter asks some sort of political leader, can you answer yes or no? Do you believe in X or Y? and then they just talk around the houses, and they just kind of waffle on, and they walk around the field answering your question, which isn't a yes or a no. You want a yes or a no, and they don't give you a yes or a no. And a lot of avoidant modern women act that way. They're encouraged to act that way. They believe in a lot of romanticism, and women don't like making choices. They don't like to be responsible. They like to suggest, poke, prod, gaslight. So they'll be grumpy, and you've got to always work out why they're in a certain mood without telling you. And when you figure it out, then they're happy. And then you have to work out, well, okay, you have to almost treat them like a dog. They can't speak English. And you have to work out, well, okay, they don't like this. Let me be the intelligent, high IQ concept connector where I can understand animal biology. So this creature is afraid, and when they move left to their dog bowl, that's when they're hungry, or when they're scratching my leg, that means this. So we're always got to be connecting concepts where this means that, or even if this seems like they want this, it actually means the opposite. So yes means no, up means down. Sometimes left means pink, and sometimes right means I'm afraid. It's like you need to learn these patterns, and they're not the same with every woman in exactly the same way. And people think, oh, that's part of the fun. That's part of getting to know someone. No, it would be nice if we used English. You know, that communication style that makes everything crystal clear. So I know exactly who you are, rather than interpreting everything. I could be getting it wrong, and I interpret you as a person with me in a relationship completely off. I have to trust my fictional interpretation rather than a direct response from you, rather than you telling me directly who you are. Can you imagine? I mean, I don't like to make the equivalent of a job interview, because in some ways when you go on first dates they are, but in other ways you shouldn't approach them that way. But can you imagine an interviewer saying, so what are your skills? Look, I don't know. Have you watched the latest Star Wars movie? I watched that this weekend. And the job interviewer would say, like, I don't know what you mean. But anyway, can you answer the question, please? Well, and then you just kind of talk about something else. And the job interviewer has to interpret the answers questions he's asking through some advanced, nuanced, higher level perception. It's like trying to understand human behavior in observing a child or an animal. That you're more intelligent than this dunce, so you're the high IQ scientist in a lab coat, being the mature one, and they can act like a child, and the child feels morally superior. You have to reject that. That's all I'll say. But yeah, I agree with that. Let me see. Are there any other comments here? Adam Super C says, not attached, still working on the happiness. Do have Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Roof over my head, food in the belly, a motorcycle, and a cat, of course. Good coffee. Yes. Right back at you. I think if you can appreciate your base level Maslow's hierarchy, that's set and good, and if you can feel that with a girl or a job or anything that's kind of foundationally important in your week to week, in your everyday life, that's really good, and you should defend to keep those. You can expand them and grow them and help them develop. Like your job can get better, you can move forward, you can develop skills in a certain area, you can improve your house, you can improve your fitness, but the base of your health, fitness, shelter, food, all that sort of stuff, that's stuff that keeps fear away from you. You should really work on maintaining and keeping that and extending it. I think when guys are in relationships with women that always make their foundations of their relationship, which is the foundation of their Maslow's hierarchy, it is part of your foundations. That's how it feels. Obviously, if she leaves, your life's not over, but that is how it feels to us guys. Women are the most important thing to us in our mind, in our heart, in every other, like it's what we build like a lot of guys build a house and go to work. It's all for a woman. So when you're on your own, the foundations are your home, your shelter, food, and all of that. When you fall in love with a woman, she becomes the foundation underneath those foundations. Think about that. So you try to keep your house and your life and your shelter and like all these basic Maslow needs because a woman slipped underneath them. And if she goes, all of that falls. So she's the one the one big thing you need to maintain. And if she's playing games, you are always nervous about your base level Maslow needs. If this is kind of Greek to you, you don't know what Maslow's hierarchy of needs are, have a look on the internet. It's a basic pyramid. It's saying, just quickly, that the bottom level, there's like 5 levels in Maslow's hierarchy. So there's a pyramid and it's split up into 5 chunks. All right, the bottom chunk of the pyramid, which is the most important, is your foundational survival needs of life: food, shelter, warmth, blah, blah, blah. Second is love, respect, whatever. They're not important to survival, but they're very close to it once you have survival. And then it goes up, and the top is self-actualization, being Yoda, to use a cartoonish example. And I think that men, when we're on our own, when we're single, all of us, men and women, our foundations are the normal foundations of survival: food, shelter, and all of that. But once you get someone you love, but for men particularly, women are beneath those basic needs. And we feel like women are our foundations. And if they leave, everything else falls away. That's what I've seen. That's what I felt in the past. And if men were kind of real in self-reflecting on how they feel around women, their life, what's important, where they want to minimize fear, it would go a long way to improving their lives and helping them be less afraid of letting the wrong kind of women go that would destabilize their foundations of basic survival. Because in a survival sense, women make men feel very, very nervous and very brittle and very afraid that their whole life is going to be pulled from underneath them and they're one step away from being homeless. That's the way it feels. You guys there's some guys, not you guys, that I'm talking about you guys, if any of the general internet, the spurgs out there are watching and listening. You guys that think, well, they'd just be a stoic man, and you put on this cartoonish persona and you perform your way through relationships. Good luck to you performing your way through relationships. I see a lot of guys, especially with the whole online pickup thing. It's good to be tougher. Like if you have no clue and you need some help, it's good to lean on lines and stoic information, but you can't put on a mask. You can't perform your way through relationships, because then you're putting on an act when you go out in front of someone. You'll feel good, but you're hiding the real you. You'll say, well, the real me doesn't have to show up. The real me never gets to get hurt. This macho Chad cartoonish guy that can get women into bed if I play my cards right and I speak the right lines. But then again, I don't know how to maintain a relationship, and I never feel good because I need a lot of time to myself where I take the mask off. That's the point. If you put a mask on, you can get the girl, but you've got to keep it on. Otherwise, you've got to spend a lot of time away from her. You can't really feel comfortable moving in with a girl if you've gotten her with a mask. This is the point. You will only be able to keep it going by having a casual or part-time relationship. You spend some time with her, you need time away to take the mask off. Spend time with her, you need to take the mask off. If you don't need to take the mask off, I think you need therapy. My opinion, but again, do what you want. So let's get, are there any more super chats or comments? Big Ol says, if you can't be happy in solitude, good luck in a relationship. True. Unlike men, women feel entitled to external happiness. Their husbands must make them happy, yet external happiness never arrives. Yes. Look, it's cliche. It's very kind of Oprah-esque, where if you can't make yourself happy, you won't be happy with someone else. But that's very true, because if you're nervous and you can't show up as you, relaxed, and if you want to feel entitled like a woman, feel entitled just to be yourself and not apologize for what you believe in and what you're into, however weird or strange it is to them. if you just have a certain taste, whether it's food or movies or whatever it is, and you like this and she doesn't, you should not feel the need to apologize. You have done nothing wrong just because your answer is not the same as Chicky Poo's. I know there's this natural impulse for you to be the same with everything, and that's a very basic way of gauging compatibility. Like, you like red, I like red. Oh my God, amazing. We like the same things. You have to like the same ways, not the same things, the same ways of seeing life. So that plays into having the same kind of values and perspectives, and the same kind of temperament, the same kind of fairness. But I think people who aren't philosophically and ethically and conversationally curious like this, it's very hard for them to see those nuances. They just see black and white. Either I go on dates, I don't like how I feel, I have to say yes to everything and I have to be a doormat, or I can be single and I don't have to feel that way anymore. And it's very binary. There's no gray area of improving being on dates if you really do want someone and you're drawn to a relationship or women, and figuring out how you're drawn to them. That has always been interesting to me. Some people, maybe they don't have that bridge interest between the black and white. But if you're not naturally good going on dates and being yourself, which I think is the majority of people out there, you're going to have a tough time. And the easiest way to get over the tough feeling is to just say, women are one way, men are another way. It's all black and white. Easy solution. 1 + 1 = 2. But I don't think it's very intelligent at all. And I wish you luck. And I don't want you guys to be unhappy. I want everyone to be happy. Least of which, even if it's selfishly so you leave me alone and you're not a spurg in the comment section. I want you to be happy, even for selfish reasons. But also, what's the point of like billions of people walking around angry at each other? And Neanderthal says, I see hordes of single men who hunt for a girlfriend. Where are all the single women? I don't know if I'm actually understanding what you're saying. I see hordes of single men who hunt for a girlfriend. Where are all the single women? As in the guys are always hunting, but they can never get one. Yeah. The women won't be caught. That's true, if that's what you mean. Big Ol says, girlfriends are better than wives. Thoughts? Generally speaking today, yes, I think you're correct. The way modern Western women are, I think you're correct on the surface. Until you kind of are discerning and you start trying to choose in a very intentional way, you date in an intentional way, you speak up, you're not playing the game of trying to get her, you're just going on dates to get to know the person, the character, the personality, and to determine whether or not she's compatible with you. If you're not conversationally and through character trying to work out if you're compatible, then yes, generally speaking, just looking at someone if they're attractive or not, and you just talk about bullshit and you go on a date and say whatever, LOL, and you talk about TikTok and you talk about what series you're watching, and you just talk about very unimportant things on surface level just to put the mask on that you're polite and you're getting along and smiling and laughing at bullshit, yeah, then I think it's girlfriends are better than wives, because if you marry one of those on that kind of very surface level autopilot, then good luck to you, because the real them is going to be revealed really quickly, because the mask cannot stay on for very long. And if you do try and keep it on for longer and longer, you feel worse and worse in the relationship. And it's not the relationship's fault. It's the way both of you are insisting on leaving the mask on, putting the mask on, and too embarrassed of yourself that you chose to keep it on for far too long. Look, I understand the first date or so, you don't reveal everything. You get to know the person. You get to know if you can trust them over a period of time. Sometimes it might take days, weeks, months before you even say, like, some people take longer in certain things. Sometimes a girl will take months or until she's married before she speaks on you, depending on her ethics and values, right? Some girls will kiss a guy on the first date. Some won't kiss until I don't know how much longer. Some guys won't invite a girl to their place or into their lives until a certain number of dates or until they feel like they can trust her. But that comes when it comes, by him knowing it with his instinct and seeing proof. Trust is earned. This was the feeling I had why I kept my private life with Stephanie private. Because I'm not going to give it to any stranger, just like you shouldn't share everything with a girl on the first, second, third, or whatever date until you feel like you can trust her with A, B, or C. I understand women who, if they're single mothers, that they don't want you to meet their child until they know it's serious and they feel like they can trust you after a certain period of time. And I think a lot of guys will understand that. And the kind of guy says, no, I want you to be completely, I want to see your kid. I want to be in your life straight away. I want you're intentional. You should want a relationship because you said that's what you want. Yeah, I might want it, but trust needs to be earned. You can't insist on something that needs trust beforehand to get the thing you want. But back to your question, Big Ol. Generally, girlfriends are better than wives today. Yes, I would agree. Just because wives are difficult to get, because before that, even getting a girlfriend is difficult, a good one, a good woman, because most women out there, the way they're raised and their attitude is terrible. It's not, you don't even like them. If you observe the way most women act, their entitledness, how they speak to men, how they come to dates, mistrustful and asking for men to prove themselves. And the guy's just coming there. You should come there as a blank slate and you should take him as he is and use your own judgment to assess whether or not he's a good person. So given the way generally women behave, I would say it takes a lot for you to even like a girl, let alone trust her over time, that you get to know her character is not the same as everyone else. And then you can maybe commit to her or go further on in life, however you choose. But yep, generally speaking, I would say girlfriends are better than wives. But you won't get a wife, like one precedes the other. So for them to, if you do want to get married, or if you're open to it, you won't get there unless she can become a girlfriend first. She's got to go from someone you're dating to a girlfriend to someone you love, to then you might move in with her. And then there's just all milestones. And the milestones take time, and everyone's timeline on those milestones is different. Melee says, well, the worst person you can lie to is yourself. I agree. If you're lying to yourself to make yourself feel better and not addressing your fears, where your fears and anxieties lie, then you are going to have a difficult time, because you can find excuses to your anxieties everywhere. There's always an opposite, very intelligent phrase that will make you feel better about not facing your fears and not improving yourself in certain areas. You look at physical health. Yeah, we all know that you need to eat healthy. But then there's also, well, you got to have a balanced life. You got to enjoy life. You got to eat donuts sometimes. It's like there is always a very reasonable excuse, a very reasonable, intelligent excuse to do the wrong thing. There is. And I have always in the past had to be careful, because I can intelligently, with my vernacular, give myself a very sensible reason to do the wrong thing or keep doing the lazy thing. And afterwards, like, yeah, I didn't do the thing I should have done again. I didn't speak up. I chose the bimbo again. I chose the hot chick rather than the good chick. I'm sure women do this too with the bad boys, but at the end of the day, most of the time, you're responsible for what you choose and what you push away and what you don't choose. All right, let's look at some of the comments again of this poll. Okay, so top score. What which of the following best describes where you are in life now? Happily single, not trying. Single, but looking or open to it. This is where I was just before I met Stephanie a couple of years ago. Or third, dating, casual, non-committal. There is a fourth underneath that, but I can only put 5 polls, items here. So there would be dating serious and with intention as well. And then in a relationship currently, happy, or in a relationship and not happy or not content. I like the honesty of the guys that sort of admitted that they are in a relationship at the moment, but they're not happy. And this is part of the honesty that I really like the core group of my subs, the 98% of my subs, where everything from single, monk, happy but not angry and able to have a conversation with me, and all the other different types of guys that are having problems and trying to kind of just live their own life, all the way to a guy that's found himself in a life where he was probably once happy or things were good, and now he's diverged, or the mask has dropped either from himself or his partner dropped the mask. It's not always the other person. You're not always the angel. Let's be honest. And I'm not blaming every guy, but sometimes it's us. Sometimes we were happy, and now it's like, you're not bored. It's just that you were wearing a mask maybe. And now she doesn't want to do all the things, and you find yourself, you have to do all the fun things you want to do away from them because you just weren't honest about how important and integral they were as part of your life before. And you painted a inaccurate picture to Chicky Poo. And again, it's very easy for us from a guy's point of view, from our own perspective, to kind of look at where a chick paints an inaccurate picture for us just to get us, to get us to fall in love with her. But the same can be true of ourselves when we act like the nice guy. But the nice guy is often hiding a lot to be nice, to get her to be happy with us. But sometimes she just needs to be unhappy if the unhappiness stems from her reacting negatively to who we actually are. You know? So, let's look at happy and single, right? And not trying. There are some young guys, I get that they've got such a happy life with their friends and video games or sports or pastimes, and they're almost asexual, and they don't, they're not motivated or driven by that side, even though they might have peer group pressure to date and all their buddies are into girls, but then they're courageous enough to say, you know what, I'm done with this. I can't put on this mask for you guys to be interested in dating. I'm just at best lukewarm on my good days to want to date. So no thanks. And then you've got the courage to kind of live your life, and you might be sort of more of a loner. And I think there's a lot of guys who romantically like the idea of being the lone wolf, but they're not really happily wired that way, because there's so many of the lone wolf kind of guys online that are very angry in their comments, and they're defending their solo lone wolf world as though it's going to be taken away from them, as though me talking differently or someone else talking differently from your lone wolf life will somehow get your lone wolf life taken away from you. And the guys that get angry, like, you're wrong, human, or something, like if I have a personal point of view about women and relationships, I always think they haven't come to terms with really that this is their place that's comfortable for them, whether it's without women or going monk or being in a red pill pocket of the community. Because if you are, you're not going to be defending where you are in life as though it's going to be taken away from you, as though you're defending it like they're going to take it away. I had a lot of negative, just take a look at the 95% of negative comments under the last couple of videos where I've revealed that I've been married for a while. And the vitriol from people, I understand the surprise and stuff, and it's not from my main subs, but I think that people that react with anger, that's all you can do is like, all right, I'm not going to convince you, and what's the point? Well, neither of us are going to win anything. Certainly not me. And I'm not trying to convince you. And you're not a person in my life. Like, you guys, I'm very grateful that we can have these conversations. And some of you guys seep into, say, the comments, and we have good conversations and good responses. And then you come onto my server on my Discord and we become online friends. And I've made a couple of really close friends online. But the majority of people, they're polite in the comments and will never meet each other. And that's fine. But I don't understand people that get angry defending the life that they say that this is them and I found the way. Why are you so upset? Be happy. You found the path that's for you. Why? Like, no one's going to knock you off it. Keep doing it. If you are happy, whatever path you're on, guys, I keep repeating this, but I think the angry spurgs out there, they just like feeling brave when they feel angry. And this is why they keep doing it. They feel alive when they get pissed off at someone who doesn't think like them. Then they feel more reassured in their life and they feel some sort of false sense of self-esteem. Like, yeah, I'm right. But if you're really stoically correct, you don't care. I can't make you fall out of love with the life or the person or whatever you're into. I just can't. If you really love your life, I can't make you unlove your life. None of you can make me unlove Stephanie. None of you can make me unlove my hobbies. None of you, like, it's ridiculous. It's laughable. And that's why I just ignore those. So the guys that are happily single, good for you. Or if you're happily any of these, right, except for the unhappy ones, like in a relationship but not happy, I would encourage you to look for honesty and where your happiness resides. So the next is single but looking or open. This is where I was before I met Stephanie for a couple of years. And I was kind of done. And I took myself off dating sites. I deleted all my profile pictures for dating sites on my computer. Like, I wiped everything. I had the funeral and I decided, and this was around the time my father died as well. So I had a big turning moment where I was done with my past life. It was time to move on because my old life, I kept trying and there was no fuel left in the tank. And my father passing away, there was just a lot of self-reflection. And I just decided to have a funeral with my old life as well and just start fresh, clean the room, and then just put back the very minimal pieces of furniture that I wanted, like that chair, this, that, and I would not put anything back in the room of my clean life now that didn't fit anymore. No, that's an old piece of furniture. That's staying outside. That's going in the trash. And it was really cathartic. Third, dating, casual, non-committal, only 5%. Which is similar to the last one, in a relationship and not happy. So I'm happy to see that most of my subs, most of the percentages here, are people that are trying to work things out, be open, thinking, responsible, have a degree of either self-worth or perceiving themselves and having boundaries of what they want and knowing what to push back, the difficulties of what they say yes and no to. So it's a very, very small percentage in this poll that feel powerless, like they have no autonomy. And that's actually really good to see, because the conversation I want to have with you guys and girls, if there's any, but predominantly with you guys, which is we're having this kind of conversation from a male point of view, is insisting on some autonomy and control over your life, and not just lazily pointing to the science and saying, well, I'm helpless against the science and there is no, you don't have any self-control and it's all up to fate and there's nothing you can do. And what's the point? That is just kind of lazy and just allowing women to do what they want with you and then blaming women. You're allowing them to do whatever they want because you don't insist on autonomy. You don't insist on making a choice. However difficult it is against your hormones, you try. And when you do overcome your hormones and your lazy 5-year-old biology and just wanting what you want because you feel that way, like a woman feels like that, when you can actually be a grown-up male and try and then show yourself through experience, hey, it was really hard, but I actually made the right choice. I said no to the hot chick that wanted to go out with me, but I've been out with her, or I know she's all wrong and it's too dangerous even to go to bed with her or date her short term. I've been here and I don't want to waste any more time. I'm too old for this. It's too dangerous. I know what happens to people when they do this. You're proud of yourself that you said no to some attractive thing that was just all emotional. That's where you develop confidence. That's where you develop confidence through the experience that you did the right thing. Anyway, let's I'm going to change top chat to live chat because I'm not getting all the comments coming through. All right. In a relationship and happy. There are probably, I don't know how many of them there are on my channel. I guess I just need to look at the stats. So 18% of people that saw this poll, but generally, let's just say 20% of my audience are in a relationship and happy. 6% are in a relationship and not happy. See, these kind of conversations can help a guy who's made a mistake and desperately wants to get out of the mistake and do better. And I think that's great. Instead of you guys finding glee and joy in putting a guy down that's made a mistake, or in your eyes a mistake. I'm not talking about me, but I see a lot of guys who a married man comes onto forums and is like, yeah, my wife this, dude, you screwed up. Why are we even talking to you? You're not part of this tribe. It's like, well, you know, when you make mistakes, would you like someone to talk to, or would you like to feel even worse than what you are that you're going through? Do you want even worse on top of your shoulders? Or would you like, for once, a sympathetic ear, someone to talk to, some understanding instead of shame? I got shamed by my missus, and now I'm getting shamed by guys as well for making a mistake I made. Especially if you put your hand up. Say you're a guy that made a mistake. You're afraid of women, and now you're also afraid of guys that act like women. So then what do? You either lie, you pretend, or you don't talk about your problems and you keep everything in even more. So the problem was you kept everything in with Chicky Poo because you didn't think she'd like who you are. Then when you screw up in front of the guys, you keep your failures away from them because you're afraid of them not respecting and liking you as well. Can you see how this just digs a deeper and deeper hole where you perform your life? You perform your life with your friends. You perform your life in front of girls. You perform your life everywhere. And the only time you feel like you can let go of the mask and not perform is when you're on your own between four walls. That is terrible. And that is what a lot of guys are doing. And I'm not saying it's not easy and it's harder out there, but the more that you run a template where you make it easier to perform your way through life because it is just easier, then the more isolated you get and the more mental issues you will get. And the more you'll come up with one-liners and you belong to groups that keep repeating these performative ways of getting through life instead of genuine one-on-one, Bob and Frank ways of getting on with life. That is how I know I'm a friend with someone. When I, Bobby, can talk to someone else, Joe. It's like, yeah, I'm a male and you're a male, but why I know you're my friend and I can invite you into my house and I can trust you with my wallet and I can trust you driving my car is because it's personal and I'm talking to a person, not a group. I'm talking to a person and not someone performing a relationship with me. And the ability to talk like this, guys, is also, you notice when you go on a date or when you've got a friend that you just trust your instincts. It's like, I don't trust them. Because you know what performance looks like and you know what something genuine looks like. And when I get into chat rooms with some of you guys I feel sympathy for, but you are performing your way even in the chat rooms. And I feel sympathy because you might not have friends or you're not used to being afraid. Maybe your parents, when you were young, every time you were just honest, they shut you down. And so you had to perform the right way of being so you would get love and attention and sympathy from your parents. And you just learned that. Then you get older, you get into teenage years, you perform your way into getting girls to like you and putting a smile on their face. And so you're just a performative monkey as a man going through life. And as you get older, you feel ashamed that this isn't right. This isn't correct. Because when I'm in front of the guys that are honest, when we get into these philosophical debates and we're really honest about life, when we're figuring things out and we're figuring out who we are, it is not the person that I perform to Chicky Poo with. It is not the person I'm performing with my family with. And that is embarrassing to realize that you've been performing your way through social validation. You've been performing your way through getting love and affection and acceptance. You think She loves you. She loves the performance that you had to give because you were taught that there was no other way to get someone to love you. You think that your friends trust you. They trust the performance and the things you refrain from telling them because that's what works with them. But you're not genuinely you. You may not be a trustworthy person. You may be performing trustworthiness, and that might be good for but you know what I mean? It's just, without going too long on it, is just make these kind of conversations are really good to have because a man will feel worse and worse the older he gets and the more clued in he gets with the answers, what works for him. When he suddenly realizes he's spent the last decades performing his way through minefields so he doesn't get blown up, it's kind of shocking, and it's hard to confront the lies you've been telling yourself and the way you've been performing through your relationships. Does that kind of, in a roundabout sense, sum up my perspective on this? And then the last one is in a relationship and not happy. I think I mentioned that one. That's a good way to kind of end the sort of the manifesto I just spoke to you, in terms of just imagine yourself performing a fake, polite, nice guy version of you, decades with a woman or your family since childhood because you're afraid to do anything else, or you're with a woman, you have a kid with a woman, you marry, like whatever it is, and then later you live with such shame as you get older. You can hide when you're younger from kind of the things that you're ashamed of, but because you got a lot of energy and distractions, you go to movies, you play sports, you go here, you go there, you travel. As you get older, your life becomes more and more settled and you're alone with your own mind. And if you're an intellectually curious and philosophically curious person, you become more and more honest. You get concerned with balance and fairness, how people treat each other. Then you realize, this is why I feel bad here, because they're not being fair. This is why I've always had arguments with my family or women or these kind of jobs. Or you start to figure out where the balance lies in your life and where fairness and kind of stoic or philosophical balance and reciprocation lies. Like, this is why philosophy has stood the test of time. Leading a philosophical life is largely reciprocal, and it makes sense. That's why guys love philosophy. Philosophy balances things. It doesn't just work in terms of what I want, it works in terms of the other way back. It's a beautiful balanced feedback loop. I treat someone one way, and you look for signs of someone treating you in a similar way. And that beautiful feedback loop, that conversation, that circuit, over time engenders trust. So anyway, yeah, I can't imagine being in a relationship like that and having to wear that mask. I came to my channel because I was tired of wearing masks to survive through relationships with people. And I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want to be tied there. I only felt alive away from people that I didn't have to wear that mask with. Because a lot of people, they tell you romantically, no, you have to wear that mask with women because that's the way that it is. And men and women are different. And that's just normal. If you're honest human, like, you never get a girlfriend that way. But it's like, yeah, but I wouldn't like having a girlfriend doing it your way. Call me crazy, but I feel better in my life where I am myself, and I'm fine with not having the friends that I have to perform with. It just makes sense. Logically, philosophically, stoically, Marcus Aureliusly, whatever way you want to look at it, it just makes, when you talk with your friends about life and what makes sense, you all nod your heads to the same thing. Yet when it comes to, especially with jobs and women and family, it's like, well, I've got to do the opposite because that's the only way I can survive. Like, you're an adult now. You will survive if you're honest as much as you can, you're off the hook. Let me go through some of the comments under this this poll. They were interesting. Where does the bottom of this? There it is. Adam Kane says, I'm highly unlikely to find a mate that meets my minimum requirements. Attractive, feminine, heterosexual, law saying, and not ran through. Yeah, that's hard. Especially if you've got... Look, there are basic standards, I think. If you've got someone who's fair and kind, that's very hard to find already. But then you've got your own standards on top of that, right? That are your particular ones. Like some guys find a low body count, a particular number, very important, and they won't even consider certain women like that. Some guys find a religious woman, she needs to meet that requirement above the basic human temperaments of being kind and reasonable and whatever. So what particular individual person ethics and traits does she have above the basics? So some guys have body count, religion, hair color, I don't know, you name it. Like those very particular arbitrary ones, I find hard to even imagine because I don't really use them. When I met Stephanie, and years before Stephanie, for the last decade, I made the decision, like, relationship material to me is really going to depend first and foremost on these values that are important, like kindness and fairness and all of these real basic things that everyone just thinks, yeah, of course you want that. That's the main thing. Yeah, I prefer dark hair, brunette, but yeah, I'm not going to turn away. Like, that's ridiculous. There's a preference and there's must-haves. There's, yeah, I can live with that. That's not a deal breaker. It's not a turn off. But these are turn offs. These are red flags. You've got to really notice what they are. And I think there's some guys that turn like things that should be red flags, or they're slightly yellowish red flags, and they turn them into red just to overcompensate, and they don't even know what they want. They don't even have a sense of base level needs. Some people think that you meet someone you like and it automatically comes with fairness. Oh, I like her, she likes me, we smile and get along, we jumped into bed with each other. Of course we have trust and fairness and we're into things. Look, biologically we get along. No, you don't. That's just biology wanting you to do this. That's it. You feel good around each other. You haven't talked. You don't know what the other person's like. You don't know that she just divorced 3 men before you and she did it in a really terrible way. You don't see her when she's got a temper. Of course, on the first couple of dates, if you like each other biologically, it's all smile. And your biology doesn't want any bad feelings. You're not going to see anger unless one of you drops an inappropriate joke or says something to drop the smile of the other person. But most of the time, 99% of the time, it's just all smiles and laughter and avoiding any tricky subjects, which is why I encourage people to talk about everything and not avoid tricky subjects if they're important to you. I wouldn't describe myself as happily single, but I'm not trying. Fair enough. Melee says, I'm looking from time to time. I must admit that the dating market can be highly dysfunctional. I don't take things personally. However, the analogy I can give you is like you are trying to build a house and not moving sand. I get you. Luke Marengo says, currently single, but like most stages of life, it certainly has its positives and negative effects. Look, there are so many positives with being single and not even trying. It's like a permanent vacation, but there are times where it would be nice to have someone, not just for sex, but also on the couch, being able to talk to someone instead of like this. And some guys don't even have a friend, and you can get a friend over. But if you're a person that wants to share their inner world more frequently, you can't just be bugging your friend. You might as well live with your friend, but then it's very different to live with your best friend as a male. Sometimes, and a lot of times, I can't live with my best friend as a male. But I would like more and more conversation, but you just drive your friend nuts. They got their own life. You know, they're not a puppet. They're not a pet that you can just bring along and whenever you feel like going for a walk. So there are moments like that, but I get what you're saying, Luke. Prince Revolver says, this is not your fault of yours, human. I have too much brain rot from watching dating content. You and me both, man. Look, I was telling Karu the other night, he sends me clips, and sometimes Stephanie does, because she watches these ridiculous clips from, like the whatever podcast or Pearly things or whatever. She gets a lot of those. So as a girl, she likes some of this ridiculous drama as entertainment, but I can't even look at it as entertainment. So I get it from, sometimes she shows me clips, or Karu, or some of you guys might send me ones, the guys I know online privately. And yeah, I can comment on it, but I don't actually go to them for entertainment. I watch, like you said, there's too much brain rot. I watch things to do with people vlogging, talking about life, philosophy, introspection, thinking, technology, cameras, travel, fixing things, repair videos, people fixing cars or building furniture, stop motion of drilling and sanding and building and creating things. I really love watching people create things. So when I can't bring myself to find videos that resemble the office environment that I left many years ago, the HR bitching, game playing world of dating. Like I that drove me nuts. I had to leave it. I don't understand. Look, I get people get titillated and find watching train wrecks entertaining. People love horror movies. I get it. I like watching horror movies every now and then, but I have to be in the mood for them. So I get we're entertained by different really weird, dysfunctional things. Some of the stuff people watch online between two people banging each other is like weird, and it's entertaining, and sometimes it's even, you want to watch it, but would you do it in real life? Like, whoa, no, I don't want this in my real life. I can see when this seeps into my real life, when it's not just a fetish, when it's not just entertainment, no thank you. And I think that line's being blurred today between a guy or a girl might think they're watching these train wreck videos online and they're fun, but they're also learning about the worst aspects of human behavior. They're just constantly seeing negativity though. How does that constant calibration towards negativity and feeling good and entertained by drama and hateful, all that sort of garbage, you go on a date, you don't know the language of anything good. You don't know positive talk. You don't know how to talk in a positive way that the person sitting across from you will go, oh, I like that. If all you've got is negative conversation, negative stories, like you see, imagine sitting away from some chick on a date and it's like, oh my God, have you seen that video of that girl talking shit to the guy? And even if she's on the same page, you are establishing a relationship through negativity and bitterness and jaded perception, right? If she came, oh, did you see that one where the guy does this or the girl, and you both, even if you agree with the negativity, there's nothing positive for me to, what do I like this person for? I can agree with how we're putting up our armor and defending ourselves, but we're two scared people trying to get together via our traumas and our negative perceptions and us being scared of the same things and saying no to the same things. But what language do I hear coming from the other person on the date that says, I'm for this, and this is what I'm confident about, and this is what I want to do, this is what I believe in, this is what my yeses are. If all we hear is no, bonding to someone, pair bonding to someone through no and defensive fear is not a good way. You can't rely on each other. You don't feel safe with each other. You are both bonding through trauma. And a lot of guys get together with girls that are wounded, like the broken wing, and they feel better because I don't have to worry about her. She's a frail mess. She'll be obedient. For any guys who have been with broken, psychologically damaged women that pretty much are overly submissive, where there's no one there, you think it's great. It is weird at best, and you feel like you're kind of alone. You've just got a walking doll. That's all you've got. But then when they feel fear, sometimes when they have a temper, that dysfunctional person has a temper in a very weird way or in a very destructive way. Or that broken person that's submissive to you, all of a sudden you have a moment in life with them where, I don't know, you have to go to a funeral together. And she just has to be normal and respect. She breaks down. She can't go. She gets annoyed at the funeral. Like, broken people, just because they can be submissive to you, don't think they're great. I've dated for a very short time people who need therapy. They're broken. Yeah, I could they're very submissive to me, but they're not someone to be with. No way. And they're very, very dangerous to go to bed with, even for a one-night stand, because the next day, they're the ones that you might get the police knocking on your door because she feels a certain way after she slept with you. She kind of, they're light switch people. Yeah, they're submissive, but then one thing triggers them and they go from 0 to 100 in a very sociopathic or very weird way. But anyway, I'm getting off the topic. Did I read all of Prince Revolver's comment? I don't think so. He says, I have too much brain rot from watching dating content. Questions like this make me think of men and women that scream from the mountaintops how proud they are to be single. Yes, I talked about this just before. The people that really angrily and forcefully are defending what they love and how great their life is. I don't believe your life is that great, and I don't believe you love what you love if you have to defend it with anger. Whatever and whoever I love in my life, if someone questions it, I laugh because it's ridiculous. I don't get angry because if anger is a way of defending, like I don't have to defend knowing who I am. If I'm standing on a mountaintop looking at the world below me, the comments are beneath me because I know where I stand on what I love and I know my view. I know my place there. I feel very safe and secure. So disparaging comments and gaslighting doesn't matter because the proof is in the person or the thing that I love in my life. He continues, yet their words and body language prove otherwise. Yes, I agree. I don't want to say I'm happy. I'm okay at best. I'm not looking mainly because I don't have it in me to care for someone else on a romantic level at the moment. Complete respect, Mr. Revolver. And I would be there with you again if I didn't have the luck of coming across Stephanie, and she didn't come. More than likely, she didn't come across me. But this kind of proves that there's luck in coming across people, but how you stand, like you are, is where I was in a roundabout way, where you're not angry, you're fine with your life, you're content, but you're open to things, right? You've got a good mindset. You're not kind of defensively got your sword out with everything and trying to cut down the world. You'll just come across weird to anyone that could be good for you, whether it's a friend or more than a friend. James says, somewhere between happy and single and non-committal dating. The dating happens so infrequently that I am way closer to happily single. Fair enough. Leonard says, I have never been married. I never found the right woman. Did you always want to get married, Leonard? Because I feel like there's much more people that know that they would like to be married, or they really want to be married. They know they want it in the same way that women know they want children. I've met a lot of guys and it's fairly normal. I never wanted marriage, but it was only after meeting Stephanie and in the years of knowing her, I saw myself one day being married to her. And it only came after meeting the person. So I never hated on it, but I never saw the point. But it's only, my opinion changed, not for any biblical or childlike, but it's kind of, I saw the point for me personally. But I see that most guys actually want it. And I'm a kind of peculiar one where I never saw the point. It always seemed like something it was stupid to think about and even dumb to entertain, because it was like the cart before the horse. Why even talk about that? Like, let's talk about the horse first. I'm interested in the horse. What do you do after you've gotten the horse? Okay, now it opens up all these doors about what do I think about this? Because this is someone I'm really compatible with now. For the first time, I've met someone that's A, B, and C, and I can be myself across the whole gamut, and I can talk and connect, and we want to live exactly the same way, and we don't want extra things in the future. And right now it's perfect. And now I can extend and open up all these doors about, okay, now how do I want to grow with this person? Because I could always grow as a single person. What do I want next in life? Where do I want to go? What do I want to explore? And now with another person, it's for the first realistic time that you can say, okay, now with someone that I'm compatible with, how can we as a couple open doors? So what do I think about marriage. And so when I was with her, it's like, yeah, don't worry. I've never thought that way about kids, and she has never thought that way as well. Some of you guys say, never say never. We'll be hearing the we're pregnant question later. But no. If you knew how against kids she was, you would see that it's a very, very, very long shot. I've got more chance of winning the lottery than Stephanie all of a sudden flipping a switch. Again, you guys can point to like, well, I know this story and that story. Sure, but you tell me a story about a guy, I'll talk to him and I'll say, well, what was she like? If I have a conversation with a guy that told me that her chickie poo out of nowhere flipped and wanted kids, I guarantee, and this is something I believe, you can quote me on this, like this is something I'll say, I guarantee if I talk to him, I have a really long conversation, and I go back, I go, what was she like when you met her? What's her temper like? Did she hide things? When did things start going south? Did she start revealing things that she contradicted? It? Like, start getting the whole gamut of what his ex was like. It's not that surprising that she would change her mind with this, because she's probably changed her mind on other things she was very sure about before. So she's always been a kind of girl that goes through phases, right? Stephanie doesn't go through phases. She's kind of stubbornly the same in a good way. Where she's stubborn is where I'm stubborn. And that brings a lot of comfort to the both of us. It's like, I will never change with this, sorry. And she's like, yeah, I'm the same. I never will change with this. And it's like, awesome. Like, we're both 100% in being stubborn in the same way. Whereas a lot of people, when you say my ex did this, it's like, and me as well, when I look at my failed relationships, why they failed, it wasn't surprising, because a lot of those things popped up, and the way we broke up, the reasons I broke up from my point of view, I could trace back to when I started to get to know her. Things popped up that I ignored, or I didn't think much of, or I think, oh, that's not a big deal. But it plays into them changing their mind and flipping and not keeping their word and not being consistent in their character. Peg, Northern Bell, says, personal preference to each their own. For me, sharing life with someone you love and who loves you, committed, divorce, etc. The long haul makes life far more than twice as nice. When you know, having experienced it, you really do know. This is the thing that I think, not that I would tell anyone to get married. I would never suggest anyone get married, especially in the West. But it's like, I never want kids, right? And most people who have kids will tell me, dude, until you have it, I was like you, but until I had my child, it changed my complete view. And I believe them. But you either made a choice, or your wife did, or there was something in you that kind of said, yeah, why not? Or let's give it a shot. Well, you're pregnant now and you want to have whatever it might be. And then later on you realize it's not that bad. Fair enough. But if I have a choice, I will make my choice. Just like you don't want to be forced to do something that's life-changing just because, well, someone else did it. Someone else started a business in textiles. Why don't you start it? I have no interest in textiles. I have no interest in starting a multi-million-dollar corporation or a factory or whatever. Yeah, a lot of money, lifestyle and stuff, which would be nice. But would I become that person? And this is the thing. I can't trust jumping off a cliff that there's no coming back from. I think that you need to be responsible at least to know that you want to try it or you're interested. I have zero. In fact, I'm deterred by it. So yeah, I can trust guys who get married and they say, until you do it, you don't know. In the same way, I can say to you guys, and I can't convince you, nor am I trying to, the reason I decided to marry Stephanie was a symbolic meaning that I really felt I wanted to. And after I did, she means that much more to me, and it formed a deeper bond between us. It's not just, I promise to stay with you, but I'm making like a public symbolic declaration. And I know there's a legal one too, But for me personally, the reason why I want to be with her personal, but also this metaphysical and symbolic personal reason that it just deepened our bond by the symbolism of what calling her my wife is. That it's hard to describe to you guys. And I completely understand that had I not met her, I would be in the same place of not caring and saying, well, good luck to you, human. I don't get it. You got your reasons, but I don't get it. And I might not even respect it. And it's a bit disappointing. I get it. But I can't explain it to you any more than guys who have kids. They can't explain to me why it's worth it. I don't see it. I really don't. But I respect, and I can see that too many people love it, and it's their life meaning. So objectively, I have to take that evidence into account. So, yeah, I know, Peg. It's very hard. Once you've experienced something, it's hard to describe in words. Just like if you can go somewhere and take pictures of a particular place and country you've been in, and you had a particular experience there, and every time you go, you can re-experience something of the same. It's very hard in words to put it to someone else. And even if you took them on the holiday you took them on, here, this is what I experienced. And they go, yeah, beautiful, but I'm not feeling what you're feeling, buddy. This subjective part of why things are right for you is the conversation that a lot of overly objective, goal-oriented people can't get. And maybe they'll never get, and that's fine. But all I can try and do is communicate with you guys in these streams and videos. Maybe thinking differently if the way you've been scientifically thinking till now hasn't worked. Maybe loosen your grip a bit. Don't hold on as tight and be a bit more subjective, be a bit more philosophical, and be a bit more discerning and show more of who you are. It's much more philosophical and less scientific. It worked for me. You know, may not work for you, but my answers just did not like. I could never get the answers I wanted through all these scientific, biological, manosphere kind of law-based, numbers-based academic wisdom, and it was of general people and observing reality. Fine, but then you meet the subjective reality of you with one person or your particular life in your bubble. Doesn't map on to everything the guys talk about online. And you agree with them because that's generally true. But your little bubble, you kind of don't talk much about it because it's kind of boring to them. And it doesn't really map on to what you're talking about, but it's really meaningful for you here. You love doing your quirky thing. You're into your quirky stuff. And that's where you have to find a match with another quirky person that's compatible with you. Otherwise, you're just dating general women out there. When you have these general conversations about men and women and what's right and wrong and how you should date and body count and stuff, you will get hollow, empty women that tick, have a low body count, tick, are attractive, tick, are very traditional and tick, like, but they're a shell without the compatible engine of what you need. You can't love them. There's nothing to love. There's nothing inside. They are they are a perfect structural exterior that you're bored with because there's nothing there to talk with. There's nothing there to trust. You trust the shell. It's a car without an engine. All right, anyway. Tower says, I simply have yet to meet anyone whose presence I prefer to solitude. Fair enough. And I think most guys, you should be calibrated towards that. Know what happiness feels like. And if you feel happy and content on your own, I would suggest relinquishing and training yourself not to be fearful of going around and being around other people. You don't have to be social. But when you're around people, polite please and thank yous, and not be afraid of socializing if you have to go to barbecues and family events and things like that. Because then if you're happy on your own and you're with a girl on a date and she doesn't make you feel happy, you feel afraid, you can't speak up, she puts you down if you start communicating who you are, then you know what happiness doesn't feel like. Don't go out with those women. So at least you're calibrated towards how you feel happy with yourself in your private life. That means that you know what happiness doesn't feel like. But that also doesn't mean that you turn up negative to make everyone an unhappy, miserable person because you want to return to your single life. Just be aware of if you're trying to keep yourself single, but at the same time, you're frustrated that every person you meet is not for you, but you're actually pushing them away, if you know what I mean. Drobies says, single, content, not looking, but open to something if the right comes along. No marriage. Fair enough. I've never been happy in a relationship. Happier single, casual. Fair enough. Happily single for now, using the time between relationships to set up the next chapter of my life and tick off a few goals before the next compatible and hopefully last chicky poo comes along. Very, very sensible. Because right now, if you don't have someone compatible, which is hard to find, and believe me, like, you have someone in your life, they take up more of your time, so they have to be compatible because you need to give them more time. But if you also have to change your life and give them more time, your life disappears. So I spend all my time around Stephanie. She lives with me. She's in the other room. But if I have to pretend to be someone else and need time away from her and constantly be with friends that I can only talk a certain way with them, but I can't talk with her. I can only watch certain movies with me, but not with her. She doesn't like going to the same places I like. They'd better like everything you like, or be open to and be fair with everything like that. And if you don't have them in your life, do everything you want to do so you know what you look like, what gives you happiness in your life, what you enjoy building, creating, and doing. Then when you meet someone, then when they're asking you to let go, no, you need to give that up. You got to give up this. You got to give up YouTube. We've got to start a family. You got to like that. So you basically have to give up everything for her. Like, no, I know what no looks like. I know what yes looks like. How about no? Bye. That is the good thing about using your single time in a not bitter way of focusing on being angry at women, but doing all the things that make you happy. Again, not being angry to get happy, but just being positive and doing working on projects and things and traveling, or whatever you want to do. And just have a lot of yeses in your life. And so when you meet a woman that's a no, it's very obvious. But if you don't have any solutions and positive things that you enjoy doing as a single guy before you meet anyone, if you're just calibrated to bitter no's and jadedness, you're going to have a terrible life and you're going to be blaming the external world, which includes women all the time. Because you don't have any personal yeses that you're doing in life that you can really contrast between the no's of an incompatible woman on a date. David P., how are you, dude? Long-time supporter, says, in a committed relationship and happy. Good for you. Body Knowledge says, been single since 2009. Ooh, so that's about 15 years now. Ladies exclusively, currently have been following me on X, curiously. Some might actually be legitimate. This is a wacky world. What can you believe? Yeah. If women weren't hard enough to decipher with their avoidant gaslighting face-to-face with how they're raised and how they don't want to take responsibility, most women, and they like to play games and yes means no, and you got to look for signs. Now, on top of that, it's even worse because they get to hide behind avatars and they hide behind LOLs and interpreting little messages within 75 characters. And there's much more interpretation than we used to have. So I've got to interpret the signals and how someone texts online in their messages. And then on top of that, the person I might meet on a date based on all of that might be completely different. How they text and how they converse in real life is also different. They don't talk the way they text. So now you have to relearn something. And there's all this indirect deciphering that goes on. I can't stand it. I can't stand that. I got tired of the signals and what a man should, like, how about talking? How about when I ask a question, you answer it? How about that? Well, you can't do that. Why not? Like, I'm tired. Like, your strategy, everyone else in the world, doesn't work And when it doesn't work and I followed your strategy, it's my fault? Nah. How about, like, I've tried your strategy infinitely and it doesn't work? How about for once I try the direct communication strategy and not play these games? How about that? You know what? When I started doing that, things started falling into place. I knew what trust looked like. I could trust my intuition. I spoke up for myself. I lexically and verbally, I could communicate exactly the way I wanted to speak. I got better at doing streams. The way I speak now, can you imagine me on a date with a girl later in my life with this kind of vernacular and vocabulary? Like, a lot of girls were intimidated, but I'm insisting through the way I speak, giving you clearly what I think, and I insist that you speak the same. And if you can't, you feel awkward around me, which is good, because I can't either talk to you because you don't know how to express yourself, or two, you're used to hiding and getting by on your looks and batting your eyelashes and going on vibes and LOLs and talking about your food and linguine on your plate. You got to turn up more than just with your biology, both men and women. Sorry, I've had enough of the other. LatQCD says, happier single, not trying. Awesome. Again, if you're happy, I've never told you what you should and shouldn't do. And my subscribers know this. I don't care if you're a monk living in the woods, hopefully with a dog, because dogs are great, or you're someone who's happily married. I'm interested in the conversation of guys happy through across the board. And also, let me get my big head in this so I can state why this is important. Also, because talking to guys from either married and happy, with kids even if I don't want them, married, happy with kids, been with their partner for decades and getting old together, to monk who's done with women, who lives on their own. Imagine the interesting conversations across all of those guys from one extreme to the other, and you're able to have interesting conversations, and they don't shame you, and you don't shame them. Or the guy that got married and tried, and he's a good guy, and we don't shame him, and we can learn from his mistakes. And the guy that's thinking of getting married is going, I didn't think of that. Or I'm with a girl that actually does that. I never thought about that, but I always feel bad when she does this. But you're telling me she kept doing this, and this is what it means, and now I can learn that. But I wouldn't have been able to learn that if I just talked to guys that were jaded, maybe rightly so, that just talked from a very compartmentalized, narrow, annoyed, rightfully bitter point of view. I can only date and see the world from this point of view. And the answer is, F the world and women. I'm just going to take care of this little patch of grass that I'm going to hold on to, And that's the beauty of letting go and having a more mature, stoic conversation with a wide group of guys and girls, and knowing that, I don't have to agree with you, and I can cherry pick what works for me, and we can have a respectful conversation, even if we're in opposing views. But it really shows you what a nice person is. Take a look. The comment section the last couple of weeks really showed me the brothers that I don't care that they've gone. I've had one or two friends in my personal life that called me brother too, and I was always suspicious of that. And they were the guys that when I did something they didn't like, that wasn't against them, but it was against their morals and values, I just didn't do things the right way, or I didn't do something they thought I should do, or one of those things. Very female way of like, well, it's not what you did, it's that you didn't put something in that empty space the way you should have, or you didn't do what I expected of you, and that's not a good person. So, these conversations I think are good in knowing what to say yes and no to. So as I said, it doesn't bother me what you're into, like where in life you are, like single, happy, not happy, dating, not happy, seriously dating, casually dating, monk or married with kids. It doesn't matter. I think that whatever kind of guy you are, wherever you are, I just want you to think better, and through your thinking and actions, after you think better, then all the things that haven't worked before you, your life gets better. You're more content, you find more consistent happiness, and you're not always defending yourself with anger to be right and feel better about yourself. I had a few comments recently where they said, yeah, I noticed humans comment wasn't the same in the last couple of years. And I'm thinking, well, I hope so. I was tired of all the bitterness and frustration and me energetically pulling my hair out, the hair that I don't have, in all of these frustrations. And then I was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm going to find my own solutions. I want to be happy here and there, with or without women. I'm done talking about the same thing in exactly the same frustrating way. How about I talk about things with a solution focus for myself personally? I think that was around the time a couple of years ago when I started having very in-depth conversations with Quasi-Mandias. You can take a look back in my conversations like a few years ago. I think it was about 5 to 7 years ago. It was when I was kind of done with the negativity that never got anywhere. My life wasn't improving. It was just being right stubbornly and circling back to the same frustrated point. But if I'm right, why aren't things better? Why are the idiots out there, men and women, that I think are idiots, why are they blissfully unhappy, but the quality of their life and their stress levels are down? You can say, well, they're dumb, because just wait. They'll be sorry later, but a lot of them aren't. Especially the ones that are being decent and open. They could be naive to this red pill manosphere stuff, but you talk to a couple that like, what's the red pill? And you talk to them and they treat each other well. They're honest, they're direct, they respect each other. It's like they don't need to know about the red pill. So they're just decent human beings. You start recognizing what a decent human being is. Yes, the red pill teaches you, like, you know, when you've got no one to talk to, you run into the majority of women out there who aren't like that. But you just start focusing on what is right and wrong. And if you don't respect certain behavior, then don't act that way. And just because certain women or guys do, then just stay away from them. Don't associate with them. Don't be friends with them, and don't go to bed with them. But that's just me. Again, do what you want. All I need is sex and rock and roll, nothing else. Fair enough. If you're happy and not angry and bitter and backstabbing, good for you. I mean that. Like, you're happy, doesn't align with my ethics, good for you. And I think if your ethics match with another person, that's very rare, and it should be gauged with a bit of suspicion, because a person might be just people pleasing you, even as a friend. So, but if you do over time realize that, like, the person's not just being agreeable, they really are like me, then you know you can trust them. They're very much compatible with you. And that goes for a friend or a lover. Ellie Nope says, looking at non-Western countries to consider going to find one. The ones in the West are too busy being programmed to try to date well, the ones I find acceptable. This is true. I got a lot of comments, and I've talked about this with Stephanie. You can see it in one or two of our online discussions on our couples channel. Scroll down on my main page on my YouTube channel. One section, you'll see a link to my and Stephanie's channel. I realize that Holland is a Western country, but when I colloquially term a Western country, I'm talking about America, Australia, England, like English-speaking Western countries. You know what I mean? Technically, yes. First world country is generally a Western country, like countries in Europe. But yeah, with Stephanie, it was very evident. And when I went to Holland a few times, they find feminism and all this stuff that we see in the West as reality TV. They actually question whether it's real in the street, because they don't treat each other that way, or it's very, very, very small in their society. Girls don't hate guys. They're not suspicious of guys. They're very optimistic going on dates, whereas here it's kind of like, yeah, you're the enemy. Prove to me that you're not. Men are guilty here. and they have to prove themselves as innocent, whereas men and women just see themselves optimistically, and they're more mature about going dating each other and the way society is structured. Obviously, the world's changing, but I noticed that was a big eye-opener. Before I met her, I thought, yeah, women are the same everywhere. Not a big deal. But yeah, your upbringing makes a difference, but your environment and country makes a huge difference. I just have to look around my own neighborhood. I live in a very kind of between poor and working class, like somewhere between that range. And when I go to the shopping center, I just see there's just a high degree of animals. They're just kind of just low tier, guttural, ghetto, the way they speak, tattoos up their neck, missing teeth, loud children, like 8 to 10, like it's just a mess. And then I go to a rich neighborhood that's more civilized, and the supermarket is beautiful. It's like sometimes I just go to their supermarkets just to have a reprieve from my own. There is a difference. So similarly, when you go overseas and you see the women there, my sister and brother-in-law, when they got married, they went to, where was it? They went to Santorini, I think it was, and like Spain. But I think when they went to Santorini or somewhere like that, they said everywhere they looked, women just look like supermodels. Is she a model? Is she like almost every second or third woman they'd run across, they could be a model. And I've heard the same with people that they go to Eastern Europe. They just look like really attractive girl next doors or supermodels. That range is very, very common. Here, if I see a woman that looks like a supermodel, it is very, very rare. It is very rare to see an objectively beautiful 9 or a 10 on the street. It is very rare. It is very. I know a lot of snowflake women will get offended, but it's the truth. But people in Europe just they have more self-respect for their appearance. They have more self-respect for their conduct in their personality. They're just overall, the ambience of them is just more beautiful than people in the West. I'm sure guys as well. Yeah, I'll concede to that. European men are probably, I don't know, like, but what I'm guessing, if women are a certain way in Europe, I'm saying that men are better as well in Europe. Objectively, they probably dress better. They're more polite. They have better boundaries. They don't kind of act like doormats. They're more attractive to women, but they're more self-respectingly attractive to other men as well. Men overseas would respect other men more as well. So I think that just the quality of people tend to be better than the kind of first world Western, like America, Australia, UK. That's what I get, the feel I get. And I'm not being self-deprecating, but it's just, it was a fact. It's what I saw. Xanthopus says, I honestly can't imagine how a relationship would fit into my current lifestyle without jeopardizing anything I find important or enjoyable. Furthermore, why squeeze a fruit as hard as you can if there's plenty of juice cartons being sold for cheaper? If I really want some juice, I'll just drop by the supermarket, buy a nice one for the day and discard it once it's finished. Sure. Women are making themselves readily available. And a lot of women in the past, in our grandparents' generation, that would not even have rented themselves out, let alone sold themselves to a man. A lot of women just in the name of freedom and, you know, having all that and being free and autonomous in life, they'll rent themselves out to many guys in the guise of being free. I can sample a lot of guys, but I'm waiting for the right one. Most of the times you're just sampling a lot of guys and then the right one never comes along because you're having fun sampling a lot of guys. It is. I've talked about this metaphor a lot in the past. Going on holiday temporarily feels amazing. You feel free, you feel good. It's awesome to sort of experience something new all the time, the variety of that. But then you want to come home, and people don't realize when they date casually, they're in holiday mode. You have to make the decision to say, I'm not traveling anymore. I am dating permanently in my mundane everyday life. Even if I go overseas and I meet someone, like in my case, I am dating from the stance of, I know what home looks like. I am not dating on holiday. I'm not dating in holiday mode. And you really have to make an effort to calibrate yourself in that way. You have to get off autopilot. McDono says, why on earth am I still seeing your content? I am subscribed, yeah, or whatever. Okay, fair enough. Fred Striker says, many other categories human seriously, even for the red pill space, still can't take you seriously. All right, fair enough. Anyway, the first commenters on my post were negative. They were at the bottom. Usually the ones at the bottom of comment sections are the first ones, and the latest ones are at the top. Anyway, any final comments or questions during this stream? If you would like to ask a question, please add 3 smiley faces like this example. And let's have any final questions and comments before the stream wraps up. There is roughly a 30-second delay in this stream. So please answer, throw me your questions now, because we're on the Q&A portion of the stream. We've been going for an hour and a half. So as any final comments come through, just have a think about where you are here in, where is it? Where you are here in this. Obviously, people tend to want to come to my channel talking about ethics and right and wrong, but in relation to relationships and women, because I think especially with the guy, if you can get yourself really right when it comes to dating and women, everything else is just very easy. Because men's Achilles heel is overwhelmingly, largely women and our natural responses to them, which a lot of it comes from being conditioned from childhood. So you learn how to try and get women because you've been taught how to get love in a certain way from when you're younger, and it's burnt into you. And you keep tripping over yourself trying to get love the same way with women, and it's not working because of how you were raised or how you're born naturally, your personality or something. Most of it is from childhood, though. Most of it is conditioned from childhood. So where are you in this? Happily single? Let me refresh it. Happily single, not trying. Single, but open and looking. Dating casually, non-committal. Dating seriously, in a relationship and happy, or in a relationship and not happy. It's interesting that guys who are dating casually, 5%, and in a relationship at the moment and not happy are 6%. I think there's some sort of correlation there. You're not actually yourself. If you're dating casually, you're having fun, but you're not being honest about what you want in terms of a permanent person. What would the real person that you want to be around all the time look like? So you are around anyone putting on a mask to have fun in this casual 5%, and you're also not being yourself in a relationship with someone that you chose, but you don't know what your standards are. So I think there's some sort of correlation here as far as I can see, because the numbers are so close. Don't you think? Let me know your comments down below. Let me know where you are, what you've learned, whether you were one of these before, but now you've gone to another one and you won't go back to being one of them. So you were single and looking, and now you're happily single and not trying, or you were single and looking and now you're in a relationship and happy or something, or you're in an opposite. I've already described in my last few videos where I was before Stephanie and where I am now. And I always think these kind of conversations between guys, we can learn from each other where we're somewhere where it's better than where we were before. I'm done with dating, but I'm content, but there's more, and I don't know how to get more or get to somewhere where I'm really feeling comfortable and good. This is a lot better than where I was, but I feel like I'm in a holding pattern of comfort, or I feel okay, but I need to be somewhere else and I don't know how to do it. And these kind of conversations, especially with guys, where we can relay stories and experience that's not talked about somewhere else in the manosphere, where I really believed in this and this was better than what I came from, but then I started to give this a try, or try this, or change my attitude, and now I moved to this and this is so much better. whatever your better might be. It might be being on your own finally, or a way of thinking, or a mindset, or changing where you live, or changing jobs, or changing how you date. I don't know, whatever it is, but a lot of these discussions can help fill in the blanks, or just a guy's got 90% of the answer and he's in a holding pattern of, I'm figuring it out, but there's something that needs to tip me to follow a certain path. And these conversations can help you fill in that 5%. You've made up 95%, or you could be going in the wrong direction, guys. And this is good, and I don't know why it doesn't feel good. And you click with what someone says in their experience. It's like, oh my God, I've been going 95% in the wrong direction. Let me pull back to 50, and then I can go in another direction and stop veering off course. So this stuff I think is helpful. It was to me. Cherry picking from different videos and different people really helped me find out what I wanted. You can take what other people want and what the rules are with a grain of salt. At the end, it just matters with what you choose or don't choose. You can not choose what everyone's not choosing, but I don't see a lot of happiness. I just see a lot of guys that are frustrated and pointing at the world. If I'm going to be frustrated, I'm going to point to my world. I'm going to be angry at my friend, my woman, my job, or I'm going to be happy with my friend, my woman, my job. Do you know what I mean? There's a difference. I can touch these things. I can fix them. I can move them out of the way. I can adjust them. I can do something with them. I think it was Aristotle that said, we are who we are. We are what we repeatedly do. This is why I like doing things and solving things and choosing better. If all we do is talk and never do anything, never solve anything, never make our lives better, that's what you are. You are a talking, neurotic, very academic, intelligent, intellectual, mathematical person that is not incorrect. Your points are fairly rational and correct. But if your life is lonely and you can't sleep and you're always pissed off and no one ever cooperates and you can't find friends and like all of these things because of your theoretical life that never does anything, if you are, as Aristotle put it, what you repeatedly do and you repeatedly do nothing, all you do is jaded conversations about how it's everyone else's fault and you're a special little snowflake that's perfect and everyone's too stupid to pick up this bar of gold that you are. That's what you are. That's what you do. What do? I'll leave you with that. Anyway, I know there'll be people that aren't my real subs that'll say I'm talking down to guys, I'm disparaging guys. I have nothing to do. I've no interest being around guys that I wouldn't consider friends or people I can talk to. I'm not angry at you guys, but I used to be small versions of that, and it always frustrated me. And I just want to have good people around. I don't have time to waste on trying to fix the world and women. I don't care. All I want is one friend, one woman, one house, one life. You got that trying to fix the world? You can have it, man. I don't care. Fix my world and that's it. And all this other stuff is interesting and entertaining, and I can have a laugh with you, but I'm the only one having a laugh. You guys are getting really angry, just like the feminists out there. But again, you can choose to say that I'm disparaging guys. I don't care. Master Falcon says, you can't be happy single if you're watching Manosphere content. These guys want dates but can't admit it. Look, again, there is a minority of Manosphere content that's not hateful, right? There's and it comes down to the person who's presenting. I don't think Stardust is hateful at all. It's not because I've spoken to him in the past. He's never come across as hateful to me. And there are a lot of guys, and they do provide very intelligent and different perspectives that help people depending on where they are and what they need. But yeah, I would agree. The majority, objectively speaking, again, you know how we can talk about objectively, generally, women act this way in the West. We can also agree that the majority of popular manosphere content that gets all the views, that everyone gravitates toward, basically the sun in our universe of manosphere content is the most embarrassing, unhealthy stuff that really doesn't help guys. That turns them into the women that they don't like. And you can see it on the podcasts and the kind of channels that are popular. And that's not me saying, well, that I wish I was more popular. I could have years ago made content that gave people everything their little bitter, jaded souls wanted to hear. But I can't pretend to come there enthusiastic and giving you this kind of energy about just like what is not my fault, we're perfect, and we have no responsibility. And why aren't we rich? Why don't we have a woman? Why aren't we happy? Why don't we have the job we want? Anyway, I don't think there's any more comments. There aren't any more smiley faces before comments. All right, guys, I think we can wrap it up now. Thank you to the regulars. Thanks to the super chats. I appreciate it. I can't see any more. All right. Mas Falcon says, academia allows for graduation. The manosphere does not. Yeah, there's no kind of graduation. It kind of just circles the first year. And there's very intelligent, well-informed people that it's like a first-year person who keeps repeating it. And the one that's repeated it the most, who stays there, is the most intelligent, well-informed, well-versed, can speak about these things off the cuff. And I see a lot of these guys who are still at that first level. That's very useful. And it's a lot of fun to do that. And the more versed you come, it's a lot of fun to have a lot of guys underneath you that you're mentoring. But maybe those guys aren't interested in going to any other level or interested in any other part of knowledge or growth. It's enough for them just to kind of be right about what they've experienced, and that's fine too. But it's the problem where there's a guy there, and if he's being shamed where he's just curious and asking questions, and the guys there who are mentoring are just shaming him back into being a first-year graduate of the manosphere, I don't really think that's helping men either. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. All right, guys, I think let's wrap it up. I don't see any questions. Melee says, I'm a big fan of Stoicism. Me too. It's funny, a lot of guys love referring to Stoicism and these motivational quotes. You see them in these streams where they put up stone statues of like Zeus, and there's a man talking like the 4 rules that men need to abide by, number 1. And it's just this really beautiful voice. And there's these quotes. And it's like they love referring to Stoicism, but very few of them speak it through their own mouths when they're in front of their friends, family, and girlfriends. And many guys would love to be that better version of themselves, but they just can't do it. And I think that's our job, to be a person we're more proud of. And they point to the evolution of like biology and men's and female nature, like, oh, evolution, men and women. Yeah, but you don't want to evolve yourself. You want to stay in the first year graduation program of the manosphere, and you don't want to evolve. You point to the evolution of men and women, but you don't want to evolve. You got to want to graduate and be another student going forward. But a lot of people love the safety of being an expert in the first stage. And they feel like, well, I'm an expert here and it's fun and it's safe. There's a good group of guys, which I get. Why would I go to another year where, again, I don't know anyone and I feel like I've got to learn more now? Now I'm kind of like a blank slate with all this experience of the first year, but the second year, I'm now the newbie. I don't have any position of authority and I've got to learn a whole bunch of new stuff. I'd rather go back to the comfort zone of knowing everything in the first year. Maybe. That's the way I see it. I always wanted to graduate. It's the reason when I've got a teaching certificate. I've got a diploma in education. And I remember I did the first year. I taught in schools for that year as well. And I knew 100% I didn't want to become a teacher after testing myself as a entry-level teacher, because I would have to teach the kids, okay, here come the year 7s. I've got to teach them how to draw perspective and design basic things. The next class comes in, I regurgitate the same things. They graduate. I get new first years in. Okay, here you go, perspective, draw a circle. Like, I'm not growing. I am bored out of my skull and I'm not growing. I am a monolith. And some people can stay there mentoring guys in the first stage. I can't. Good luck to you. You guys are great. Some of you Manosphere guys that are mentoring guys in that first stage. Because I just, if guys ask me those questions, I give them quick answers and I want to move on to something that I'm much more interested in. I'm not interested in, if I was playing basketball, I can't just teach you layups all day. I want to show you moves and 3-point roll-offs, pick and roll moves, post moves, free throw. Like, I want to show the whole gamut. But I think guys just love the layup, layup, layup. It's like, that's nice. It's the fundamentals. But it's a reason I couldn't become a teacher. I want to grow. I know it's about helping the young people, but I value me growing more than helping young people grow. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that would rather stay there. They like the teaching of young people or mentoring people. I like sharing my experience through conversation, but for me, it's always been about me selfishly. And you guys can sort of say, well, you're a selfish human. I am. I'm very much, I have to count first. And through that, then I can share what I know and be a good friend or husband or son to people. But if you hold me in place and lock me to the radiator because you want me to be your pet, I can't. I need to be kind of free to grow, and either you grow in my direction or you don't. And maybe my friend that me and an old high school friend, we had a falling out. It was probably the same thing. He wanted me to stay the same guy I was when we were in high school. We reconnected a couple of years ago and it was good, but then I quickly remembered why we parted ways. He wanted me to say the same guy and he was frustrated when I wasn't sort of doing anything against him, but he didn't like my opinions and what I chose to do and what I didn't choose to do that had very little to do with him, but he didn't like that I couldn't count on him. He didn't like that he couldn't count on me like he could count on me when we were in high school 30 years ago or something. Anyway, let's wrap it up. I don't think there's any more. No more comments. Come on, guys. I know I can blab. Look, I'm going to blab if I don't see any comments. And I can do it fairly easily. But if I pose this question here, right, because I'm interested not just in what I think. I want to see where you guys are at. Let me know in the comments after this stream, but I wanted to have a discussion with you. Where are you at? Are you happily single, not trying? And let us know in the comments so we can share it during the live stream with 3 emojis before your comment. Where are you? Just quickly, and what have you learned? Very short. Like, what's the stoic point? What's the sharp point of realization? Are you single but still looking? What have you realized? Whether it's through conversation, through my channel, or on your own. Are you dating casually? Are you happy? Does it work? Does it not work? Are you happy in a relationship? Are you miserable? I'm not that I want to hear people's misery, but there's not enough guys that are in relationships where they feel stuck and they feel embarrassed that they can't talk to anyone. I would love to talk to guys who are married or in relationships and they're really trying hard. I think those are the most informative things, because I think guys who are fair and ethically good guys and morally well balanced, the type of guys that most women would like. I'm really interested in a good, decent human beings that would be my friend that has found themselves in a situation that I may have found myself in the past, that he deserves to be out of that. And how can we help that guy instead of being crabs in the bucket like a lot of the dipshits in the manosphere, not all of you guys, but some of them that are extreme, that love disparaging those guys. If the guy's decent, recognize what a decent guy is who's made a mistake, who's not against you, but you're happy to put him down because he's done something for himself and he's screwed up, or he might be happy. I would say those guys aren't your friends. But when there's a guy that looks like he's a good guy and he's made a mistake and now he's cornered, how does he get out of this? This could have been any one of us. You know, this guy that's in a well-meaning way, he was young and he accidentally got his girl pregnant and she just wants to keep it, and he didn't even find out where she stood on that. It could have been at the early stages of a relationship. Don't you feel sympathy for that guy? Couldn't he have been any one of us when we were young and naive? That's kind of more caring about a guy that hasn't done anything to you, but you can see yourself in that man. Mr. Anderson says, we're here to listen, human. If I wanted to do most of the talking, I'd have a channel. I encourage all of you guys to start a channel. I keep telling guys that I talk to online, like Boff and Karu and all the other, and fine, you don't have to do anything, but I would love it for selfish reasons to be able to have podcasts and other guys hear your point of view. Just start something and start talking. Don't show your face. Read it from a script, because some of you guys, you leave great comments in the comment section, and you know who you are. I read your comments out all the time, and I highlight them and I put them up on screen. I repeat them in videos. You guys, even if it's just to read out a 2-minute video of a little essay you write, I think it would help so many guys, and then we could talk and you could grow your channel just as a way of sharing your wisdom and not just being in the comment section. And I get a lot of you guys might not think you're good enough to speak, but do it in a very lo-fi way where you just speak, or get AI to read it, or I don't know. I think you should really be using your own voice. All of us have different voices. Just learn a bit about microphones and just buy a basic microphone. Don't show your face. Just show a photograph on screen, a royalty-free one, and there you go. And just start a channel and start having conversations. Just do that. That's how I started. And I generated a great group of guys in all of you that I can explore these ideas and get better through conversation, not just keep it in my head, but I would encourage you guys. I know what you say, Mr. Anderson. People turn up to hear me blab, but at the same time, I encourage you guys to start a channel, if not to kind of encourage more of this conversation. And it's not just me talking all the time and trying to searching through needles in the haystack of like trying to get people involved. Get involved if you've always thought about maybe starting a channel. I really encourage I've been doing this for a long time, and there's so many pluses more than minuses. Yeah, you get the odd idiot, but if they're not, you start to accumulate more people that would be your friends in the comment section, like most of you guys. And you do actually find some friends in the comment section. I found some really good friends in the comment section. You find your kind of people. I found Stephanie in the comment section. Well, not technically, she DM'd me, but she found my channel. And it's not a strategy to find a girlfriend or a wife or anything, but do you know what I mean? I think if you find it hard to find women in your everyday life in dating, or your family and friends, there's no one to talk to, say, fuck it. I'll generate my friends. I'll generate a campfire and tell everyone, this is the campfire, this is what I'm doing. And then you'll get people coming in on their own free will because they're interested in that conversation. And that's what I did with my channel. I created a topic thread, a way of speaking. I said, this is who I am and this is what I talk about by dint of the topics, the videos. And people started going, yeah, that's an interesting one. I like the way he speaks. He speaks like I would. He speaks like a guy I'd like to have a friend in my life, you know? So I think that's, I encourage you guys to do that. Just start generating the conversations you would love to have in your life that you just can't have because they're not there at the workplace, they're not there in your family, and they're certainly not there in friends and people you go on dates with. Master Falcon says, I was a MGTOW content creator that also got married and had kids 6 years later. They have bastardized Red Pill to be feminism for me. Yeah, look, personally, I agree. I'm on the same page. The way they act, I think it's a lot of these extreme Red Pill guys are acting like the women that had walked all over them, and they've adopted the same sort of defensive crabs in the bucket, putting men down that disagree. Like they exhibit the same traits. I remember when I started my channel and I was happy to call myself MGTOW, I had a group of guys that would be happy to agree to disagree. No one was hating on each other. There are a few extreme guys that have had a few screws loose that kept flipping their positions like angry MGTOW. Like one moment he'd be angry at women, he'd get a girlfriend, he'd disappear, he'd come back, then he tried to like, oh, now I'm going to be MGTOW and married or something. Like there are people like that. And I think he even admitted that he was on medication. So people are different, and you don't know their lives, but yeah, it has changed in a big way. And see what happens. Like you like the group of guys like Master Falcon. He was MGTOW, but then he thought, here is something in my life I want. This is real. Here's a woman. I've learned a lot of stuff. I know how to stand up for myself. I know the difference between right and wrong, and I know the difference between how I would have gone in relationships before the red pill, and now I can go about relationships differently. Why wouldn't I do this? This is me taking control. This is me being real. This is me making choices and saying yes and no in my own way. And this is me developing self-esteem. And the experience of every correct decision that I'm proud of moving forward makes me into a better person that I'm proud of being, right? But you can't do that unless you move away from the herd. The herd, unfortunately, is like kind of swimming in that soup. And the moment you want to leave, they don't like you leaving. I'm sure a lot of people don't like that I've stopped making the content I did 7-10 years ago. I moved on. I'm sorry. I can kind of make it again in a joking way to entertain you, but you'll know I'm not serious. But if you want me to be serious about that content, I can reflect with you guys. How many times I'd say, I agree with you, women are this and women are that, and it's hard and blah, blah, blah. Before, I was really pissed off and annoyed and frustrated and trying to work it out. I can't do it that way because I'm not pissed off anymore. I've approached it. I've worked out a lot of stuff and I can take it or leave it. Whereas before I couldn't leave it. I had to take it in a certain way and it had to work in a certain way. So I can't pretend to show up. I can show up in those comments, guys, and make the videos you want, but they're going to be much more fun and entertaining. They're not going to be serious, and you're not going to connect with them if you're in a serious mode like I was back then, because I'm not now. And it's got nothing to do with now I've changed because I'm married to Stephanie. Melee says, there is a saying, you become what you hate. Yeah, I think there's a lot of these guys that are extreme in the manosphere that are both angry at both men and women in a very visceral way, and they've got their little clubs. You do. If you don't check yourself, you start to defend yourself against the tactics and the personalities of the women you associate. So if you're always dating the same kind of women, watching the same kind of Fresh and Fit podcasts, so the entertainment you consume, the women you consume, the people you're around, you consume all negativity, then they bleed into how you see things and how you're calibrated. You can't magically become a different person. If you're around negativity, it's what's a saying? It's very hard to create a positive life out of being negative or something like that. Anyway, Alonzo says, I would love to hear guys comment on divorce and your mate suddenly disappearing. Well, look, I remember through most of my life until now, all my high school friends that got married, they kind of distanced themselves, but that was more because they didn't have much to talk about with me, because they were never into philosophical discussions. They were just about into everyday life. And because their lives changed, they had wives and kids and stuff. All their lives got consumed with raising a human being, which I understand. And you'd catch up and it would be very awkward. All of a sudden I catch up with my old friends and now they got kids. I was single, and it's like catching up on an awkward date when you got nothing to talk about. And that's when you know it's like, well, this isn't a close relationship. It can't be. I can catch up with them. We talk about good old times, but I can't relate on any topic in real time now. And so you can't really, it's very rare to have a best friend from childhood. You're still single and he's married with kids and he loves his life because he's just so consumed with like family life and raising children. It's just the way it is. Whereas my life is consumed with everything but that. So my talking points are very different. Which is why if I met Stephanie and she was really into kids and family and she was pretending, she couldn't pretend through the conversations. All the conversations, she wouldn't be able to talk about anything else. She wouldn't be interested in anything else. If she was trying to hide behind, well, I'm going to get him when when he falls in love with me, I'm going to marry him, then I'm going to have kids, and then I wouldn't have been able to even get to know her. My red flags would have popped up because of the desert of conversation. It would be barren. Anyway, let's wrap it up. I always say this. I always say, let's wrap it up, and then half an hour later, I wrap it up. All right. Yeah, exactly. I said I was going to wrap it up half an hour ago, and it's exactly half an hour. All right. Have a good weekend. Remember, leave the comments down below. I'd really like to, I wanted this stream I'm curious about you guys, where you are in relation to this. Again, I'm repeating myself. I know I'm repeating myself, guys, but where you are in relation to this. So, yeah, I'd love to know where you are. I know there's a percentage, but what are your insights in terms of where you are in this? Happy, single, alone, dating, wanting someone, very content, never going back, not even looking at women. Even if a great woman came along, you wouldn't even consider it. I'd be interesting to see where you are. And I'd be very appreciative if the comments weren't red pill bitter. Anyway, I'll chat to you next week. And have a good weekend. Happy Mother's Day. It's Mother's Day today here in Melbourne, Australia. I think I'm coming down with something. Hope not. Anyway, have a good one. For the rest of you, jump on Gilded. A few of us after the stream get on there to have a bit of a chat. And I will see you during the week for another video or for another stream. Have a good weekend, everyone, and I'll catch you later. Bye.